Celebrating 15 years of this beloved foolery.
You know that it would be untrue. You know that I would be a liar if I was to say to you, Central Coast, I know I'd be a liar.
Hey, there we go.
Come on, Jeff and Jeremy, light my fire.
I like how you fit it in there, Greg.
Jeff and Jeremy, light my fire.
Oh,
yeah. Try to set the night on fire.
Jeff and Jeremy in the morning on 93.3 KZOZ.
Yes, good morning, and welcome in to International Women's Day. I know we're celebrating History Month with women in the month of March, but today is International Women's Day, and we have to celebrate some women that have done it in rock and roll. And I guess I started with Aretha Franklin because I think she was the first woman to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987. So, kudos.
Really? It took us to 1987 to get a woman in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
It was all men until through 1986. It was all men. And then
she's deserve it. She's definitely deserve it.
Right. And then she opens the door for the Supremes. Some people I don't even know their names. I know Carole King's name, Tina Turner's name, Etta James, but Bessie Smith, Ma Rainey, Zola Tyre, Laverne Baker.
Okay, if you just that name that list of names that you just named off, are those all women in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Yes, they are, including
Pat Benatar deserves to be in that.
Yes, she does, and she's already been overlooked once. And Stevie Nicks is in there too. She went in 2019.
But can we get Pat in by herself?
Sorry, she went in twice. 2019 was the second time Stevie Nicks went in.
Right, because of Fleetwood Mac. Can we just get Pat in? Does Neil have to go in with her?
Yeah, see, that's the problem. That's what's been holding Pat back is Neil Giraldo. Because they're like, well, I got a ticket for one of you, but the economy it's tough. Coronavirus, everything. We can't afford to get both of you here. And she's like, well, you don't understand. I can't do anything without Neil. Because even when I go to concerts, I have to say Pat Benatar and Neil Giraldo.
It is in my hopes and wishes that I had a prank phone call game and a solid Rolodex so I could call Pat Benatar as a representative of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, but I don't have that. I don't have the A game when it comes to prank phone calls. It would be nice to say, hey, we got a spot for you, but the problem is Neil. So you have to choose between Neil and us.
Your husband, the guy that wrote most of all of our songs, right? Music. I mean, he deserves to be there. Yes, he may not be, the one singing the songs, but he wrote a lot of it. From what I understand, he wrote most of it.
Well, he deserves to go and support his wife, but I don't know. I argue that.
But can't you go in as a writer, producer?
She does a lot of the heavy lifting, I think. I think she does.
Let's see here. This year, Carly Simon, Kate Bush, Dionne Warwick, Dolly Parton. A lot of people have issues with Dolly Parton going in, but I don't know. It should just be called the Music Hall of Fame and not the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because there's
absolutely
nothing about Dolly Parton that says rock and roll, but she should be recognized for her talents, right? I'm sure she's in the Country Hall of Fame, though, right? Country Music Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I think the Grand Ole Opry is the equivalent or something like that, and I'm sure she's a member of the Grand Ole Opry, probably one of the first members, if nothing else, Yeah,
so, anyways. Oh, by the way, you want to hear some motivational? This is Stevie Nicks from when she was inducted.
It's not hard for me to go and play for you, but it's very hard for me to try to tell you how I thank you for this being the first girl in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice. Sometimes I just can tell great stories, but for me to tell you a story from my heart about what this means to me is very hard because this has never happened to me before. And I'm hoping that since it's never happened to me, and now only once, 22 men in for 0 women, and now 1 woman, that what I am doing is opening up the door for other women to go like, hey, man, I can do it.
Okay, I can do it. I guess that's it. So there you go. So today we will be featuring not necessarily women that have won, maybe, but also just women that rock. All right.
This is going to be a women in rock day. Can we play the Donnas then?
Yes, we can play the Donnas.
Take It Off is a great song. I love taking off.
So we'll play the Donnas coming up today. We'll play other stuff as well. If you don't know who the Donnas are,
Hole?
Here we
get
go.
Some hole in there?
yeah, this is the Donnas. Not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but we're going to celebrate some women in rock today. And yeah, Celebrity Skin. I mean, God, Hole's great.
Hole is great.
And then people are probably screaming at their radios, Heart. Yeah, we know Heart. We'll play Heart. We'll play it all.
Spending 4 hours in a box together every day can make you say crazy things. Jeff and Jeremy in the morning.
I was reading a study today that said that 32% of people said they would not buy a house if they found out someone was murdered in it. I'm pretty sure I'm 100% no. I mean, this would have to be like my dream house, and I really wanted it, and I really didn't think we could afford it, and it had everything I wanted, like a shop, and it had land, maybe it was on a pond, had a view, lots of trees. My wife loved it. And then
That's
found
the thing.
out
It
that
could be the
somebody,
perfect house.
yeah, somebody was there was a mob hit taking place there, and they killed 13 people inside this house. And the blood stains are no, but you looked at a house once that somebody died in, not murdered, but they had died.
Yeah. And we had to, it was weird because
I would rather not know. Don't want to know.
I don't know where it came from. You know, I don't believe in this kind of ghost stuff that y'all speak of. But I asked the agent, I was like, hey, we ended up making an offer on the house, so it was kind of strange.
Wait a second. Hold on. Let's just take a step back. So you went to look, the agent said, hey, got a house for you to look at. Meet me there. So you went and looked at the house. You didn't know anything about anybody dying in the house at this point? Or did you? Did they tell you ahead of time?
No.
So you're walking around the house, and what, you get an inclination?
It was weird because, so a lot of the furnishings, like, you know, you could go to your parents' house and probably find this, or not you so much because your parents just recently bought a house, but a lot of people our age, like when you get older, you don't want to move from the house and things get outdated, but you don't replace the things that are outdated because you're used to them and you like the way that they work because you're used to the way that they work. So as long as it's working, you're not going to.
Do you still have that old red chair?
Yeah, I do.
Leather chair.
I still have the red.
I'm
old
sorry,
red
that's
chair.
what I'm thinking about.
I did put it out for a garage sale recently, and then it didn't sell, and I was very happy, and I took it back inside, and I was like, nope.
Because your wife wants to get rid of it?
Yeah, she wants to get rid of it.
That was one of your first pieces of furniture, wasn't it?
There's some cracking on it. We bought it at a church rummage sale, and it was like $15, and it's the most comfortable chair in the world, and I don't want to get rid of it. It's vintage.
So you're walking around this house, and what, you're noticing old furniture, and that makes you think somebody died there?
There was this weird, I forget what it was. It was a weird appliance that would have only been around like in the late 70s, early 80s.
Okay.
And it was a weird attachment to the sink for some kind of water thing, and it was off to the side, like it was an add-on. And I think maybe it was a sprayer, like, you know, the sprayer, the handle sprayer. But it had like a box attached to it. So you like tapped it into the line through the box, and maybe the box gave it some pressure. I don't know. I didn't try it out, but it looked like something that would have only been there in the 70s or 80s. And then I think that tipped me off to the cold feeling in the house. And I asked the agent, I was like, by the way, did somebody die in the house? And she's like, I don't know. Let me ask the listing agent. So she called the listing agent, and they're like, yeah, the person died in the house.
You're a ghost hunter, dude. You didn't even know it. You have the ability. Not everybody has it.
But it was because the old appliance that tipped me off.
I don't know. Was it, though? Maybe the ghost pushed you in that direction. It was cold. I'm being serious, by the way. I think there's people out there that have these abilities to feel things. They're more tuned into things. That's all. You don't even realize it, but you're just more of an aware person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Without sounding weird or anything. I just feel like for example, sometimes, do you ever feel like somebody's watching you? Have you ever had that feeling?
No.
That somebody's like looking at you, and you turn around and there's somebody looking at you?
No.
Well, this is something that we lost over time, because when we lived in the wilderness and things were trying to kill us, we had this ability to get that creepy feeling when something was staring us down. People talk about it all the time. Have you ever heard people talk about this before? Where they feel like somebody's watching them, they turn around, they see them? Some people are just tuned into that stuff more. murdered in the house. Murdered, not died, murdered.
Yeah, that's different.
I mean, I don't really want to be in a house. I don't want to know. That's the
So that basically tells me that 32% of people believe in ghosts, because that's going to be your number one opposition to buying a house that had somebody murdered in it, is the fact that there could be the ghost of the person still around, right?
Yeah, I would. When we lived in Arroyo Grande, the house was 3 years old. It was built behind a house that had been there since the 50s. And it was just a lot. And, they're doing this everywhere in California now. You got enough room in the backyard, you can build another house. So we lived in this house, and it was a brand new house pretty much. It was 3 years old. But my dog would sit there, and you have been to my house where the stairs come up. He'd be sitting there in the living room. We'd be on the couch, and Charlene would be on a chair over there. And then all of a sudden, he would just go, huh? He'd make a noise, and he'd look at the stairs. He'd turn his head around, and he would watch like somebody was walking up the stairs, past him, around him, into the kitchen. And his head would turn the whole way. That still gives me goosebumps. And he used to always bark in the corner of our upstairs bathroom.
Yeah. That's a little
He would just
weird.
look at the wall and bark at it. Now, maybe he's got head trauma because he, chases balls and runs into walls with his head. But it's just weird.
Have I ever
Weird
told you the
stuff.
story of Duptee?
Oh, I want to hear about Duptee.
Duptee was my daughter's imaginary friend, which we found out maybe wasn't so imaginary.
Careful, you don't want to learn from this. Jeff and Jeremy in the morning on 93.3 KZOZ.
Jeff, Jeremy here in Duptee. Was Duptee, did this happen at your house that you lived at in San Luis Obispo?
Yeah, so we lived in a house that was built in the 30s. It was you took a tour of San Luis Obispo, and you found that there was pretty dark side to San Luis Obispo.
I mean, it was around Halloween, but they do a walking tour, and I think it's year round, and they'll really give you the history. Now they were taking us. We started at the Mission, and that's because that's really where the lifeblood of the town, grew from. And there's all these different stories, about hangings and all this other stuff. There was a big tree. I'm guessing it was an oak tree that's on the south side of the Mission. It's not there anymore. It's now a street, but yeah, we heard about all kinds of crazy stories and walked around, and Chinatown and the whorehouse that used to be up there by where the Slow Rep Theater is. Used to be a whorehouse.
The Repertory Theater?
Yes, that was a whorehouse there, yeah. And the parking garage across the street was a hotel. And
So I'm guessing that the building that used to be a whorehouse is no longer there.
is there a better name? I feel like it's a little early to be dropping.
Brothel?
Brothel, yeah, there you go. It was a brothel.
It's funny. We were looking at a house in San Luis, kind of in that area, and we actually happened to know the across the kitty corner neighbor, and she came out, but I had no idea that she lived there. She's like, "Oh, you're looking at that house?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she said, "It's interesting. That house used to be a brothel back in the early 1900s." It's like, that's good to know, I guess. Because
Well, hey, man, at least your ghost might be naked and horny. I mean, it might be better than, a scary ghost. Maybe.
amazing what a fresh coat of paint does, huh?
I don't know. There could be worse things to be haunted.
Yeah, so it has a dark, thing to it. And we lived in a house that was built in the 30s. It was a craftsman-style house. It was small. It was drafty. It was always cold, but it had charm. It had nice hardwood floors, original hardwood floors. And my daughter, she would always, one of the first words she learned how to say, even though it's not a word, it was called Duptee. It was like Duptee, 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 everybody Duptee. She sang a song.
How old is she? Like one?
Yeah, one. She started learning before she started talking before she was walking. So yeah, before one, and then after one, all the way up until she was two, and then she just stopped kind of talking about Duptee.
Where did this word
anymore.
Duptee come from?
That's what we asked her. And
Oh,
one
you
time
didn't? Okay.
She one time I was like, "What does Duptee mean?" And she was, able to comprehend what I was saying. And she's like, "Duptee, he's over there." And I'm like, "What do you mean by that?" And she's like, "Duptee, right there in that corner. That's his name." And
She's
I
like
was
Duptee. She's pointing.
"Yeah." And she's like, "He always stands right there." And I was like, who's Duptee? And she said, that's my friend. Now, because things get phased out of your memory when you're a kid, she no longer remembers.
Oh.
I've asked her, pretty soon after that. And then it was like the minute that she let the cat out of the bag, the powers of Duptee disappeared magically. Like Duptee stopped coming around. He knew that, she was going to forget about him or whatever. It was a very odd thing. And you know me, I don't believe in ghosts.
So you didn't have somebody come over to channel Duptee?
No. And the house has since been torn down, so Duptee is probably haunting the people that built the new big atrocity that is on that land.
Oh, it's a bit. Yeah, I did drive by it when they were building it. It looked pretty big.
Oh, God. Ridiculous.
I don't know. You got to pay for the land in San Luis Obispo. You better have
might as well to make the most of it.
Yeah,
but I mean,
use
it's
it
like,
up. Wow, Duptee.
Doesn't fit anything in the neighborhood.
When's the last time you asked her about Duptee?
I ask her sporadically, every once in a while. I'll be like, hey, do you remember Duptee? She's like, nope, I don't know. What is Duptee, I ask her about once a year. Nothing. It's the strangest thing. So maybe Duptee was a ghost. I mean, if there was a ghost in any house that I've ever been in, it would have been that house. I still don't believe in ghosts.
I'm really jealous. I wish I had a ghost story.
A wild imagination of a child. You know, I think that's what I chalk it up to.
When my grandpa died, my mom and her brothers and even my brother's wife, they all had these experiences where they thought they saw him or felt him or whatever, and they had somebody come, and I was a kid, but I think I was 12, so I don't know exactly what happened, but they all sat around in a circle, we had to burn a candle for 7 days, and the craziest thing that happened was, with these candles, right? Like, remember that van you bought? It had a picture of one of those candles in it. It's one of those Jesus candles, and it's really long, and you can burn it for 7 days, apparently. It's a tall, skinny candle in glass.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so my mom said, we have to burn this guy. She told me and my brother, because we couldn't blow it out. She was in a bathtub in our bathroom upstairs. She goes, don't go near that candle. It's got to burn for 7 days. She goes, and I go, why does it have to burn for 7 days? She goes, well, because it's going to help free your grandpa's spirit. And I had no idea. I'm 12 at the time. I'm like, oh, man, we got grandpas in the house. That's cool. Because I love my grandpa. And so, I'm looking around, like trying to get grandpa to blink the lights, and nothing ever happened. But on the 7th day, that candle still had a quarter bit of wax left into it that had not burned down. And on the 7th day, that morning, I went in the bathroom to brush my teeth. Candle was out. Nobody went in there. I asked my mom. I said, did you get up? And then, oh. She goes, yep, that's the sign. He's gone. That's my only ghost story. It sucks.
So weird.
It's not a very good ghost story. But it did go out on the, they said it's got to burn for 7 days. And on the 7th day, it was already out. Duptee.
It's so funny. The real estate agent that was telling us about, so she bought her house that she lives in. She bought it from somebody that died in it previously. And she did the thing where, like a pastor or somebody, I don't know, somebody that's qualified to do this kind of stuff, brought sage over and started burning sage in the house, and was like, oh
yeah, they do that. Yeah.
And
I saw that.
You did that? You really did that, huh? She's like, yeah, you got to do that to clear the spirits.
Yeah, she probably watches that woman, the blonde hair, the big haired woman. That can talk to the spirits. She's always saging everything. Teresa Caputo.
What is her name? Teresa Caputo or something like that?
Caputo. Caputo. She's Italian, I think. Anyways, I know we got people calling in. Listen, 805-543-3693. I'm sure there's got to be a good ghost story out there. We'll listen to it.
Yeah.
Jeff and Jeremy here with Dumbass of the Day, brought to you by California Diesel and RV. They're in Oceano. They work on diesel engines, diesel trucks, RVs, fleet vehicles. These are the people you want to call if you want to have somebody that can take care of your problem that you can trust. Because we all know sometimes when we get involved with something like a diesel engine, maybe you don't know everything about a diesel engine. You want to find somebody who does and somebody who's going to take good care of you. That's what they do over there at California Diesel and RV. You can follow the links at kzoz.com or stop by and see them in Oceano.
How pathetic can some people be?
People always assume I'm a bleeding heart liberal. What? I'm conservative on almost all the key issues. I hate the poor. I've said that forever. We need help. Yeah, we've heard. And some of you know I have a charity, but I did that for tax purposes. If you're not familiar with it, it's called Febrezing the Homeless. No, it's not what some of you think. What I do, I go around and I Febreze homeless people. Is that what you thought it was? Well, this isn't a game show. It's nice. Who would you give $1 to? The guy that smells like liquid garbage or ocean breeze? It's a no-brainer. You're going to make it rain on number 2.
Dumbass of the day. 93.3 KZOZ.
I don't know if you caught the news last night. This came out of Fresno. This was a pretty good story. Cop came up on somebody that was homeless, that he knew had drugs. Stopped to talk to the lady. Ended up making a deal with her. Said, give me the drugs. Let you go. We don't have to talk about this anymore. And you're thinking, why would he want the drugs? Was he sell the drugs?
Dirty cop.
Why? It's meth and fentanyl. I mean, it's not nothing you want to mess with.
It's not designer. It's not the Beverly Hills type of drugs. It's not getting the
right.
people to come up to Fresno.
And you would think, being a cop for 19 years, if you were going to be stealing people's drugs and doing them, you would be a little bit better at it.
Yeah, you want that pension, you know? I mean, come on.
Right. This officer, not so much. Officer Donnie Donnell.
Donnell is charged with robbery, illegal possession of meth, and DUI. The investigation started with a one-car collision in a parking lot, and Donnell has not been back to work since.
A 911 came into our dispatch center and said that a police car was driving erratically in the parking lot. The police car was described as running over curbs and striking a tree.
Blood testing at the hospital showed he had meth and fentanyl in his system. A toxicologist told police Donnell had ingested way too much fentanyl for it to be anything other than intentional use.
So he told everybody, he goes, oh, well, I just confiscated the drugs and they must have got in my system that way. No, you were smoking the heck out of them, dude. And then you couldn't even keep your car straight in a parking lot, and you crashed into a tree.
This is how bad the fentanyl addiction is in the United States, that even police officers are doing. I mean, but police officers are under a lot of stress. I can understand some drugs. I mean,
I know that was the thing on the State of the Union. He was talking about the opioid pandemic. I'm sorry, that's not the right word. Opioid problem in this country. And really, it's a fentanyl problem. Fentanyl cases are nuts. Like all you had to do is watch one episode of Live PD and you figured that out. They're Narcaning everybody out there. They had to Narcan this guy to get him back.
It's too bad that this happened. Like, this guy worked in Fresno for his sake, because he'd be in Los Angeles. If he was working in Los Angeles, they would have just sent out a social worker to him when he got in the accident, and then they would have, talked to him a little bit about it, and maybe he would have, changed his mind on the drug addiction front,
Yeah, this isn't the first time it's happened. Where was that social worker 5 years ago when he got in another accident and his wife found meth in his pocket?
Nice.
She told another police officer about it, and they tried to get him help. It wasn't a social worker, though. The social worker would have figured it out, though.
I love that that's the plan now. 911?
I feel bad because this guy...
We'll send a social worker out to you.
Here's the thing. Do you do meth one time and then you're hooked on it? Is that how it works? It sounds like that.
Know.
To some layman like me, I think that's the case.
I don't know. I don't want to find out.
Me either. Dr. Donnie. Doctor. What am I talking about?
Maybe that's the next bet we
Druggy Donnie.
Huh? Loser has to do meth. The next bet that we make.
It's a good thing I live 1,000 miles away. Congratulations, Donnie Donnell, former officer of the Fresno Police Department. You are Jeff and Jeremy.
Dumbass of the day. It's Jeff and Jeremy in the morning on 93.3 KZOZ. Subscribe to the Jeff and Jeremy podcast now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, and YouTube. It's your Central Coast commute-friendly podcast.